hear and see could be triggering or distressful for some. If you require assistance, please contact any of these services.
I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know what family violence and domestic violence was because I'd never experienced it in my life.
He claimed it's because he let me do this, but at the same time, the anger, the abuse is there. And I start to live in fear, always in fear.
خودم خواستم به هند تجاوز بشه، خودم خواستم به حریمم بیا. مشکل خودم بودم. این خودم هم گذاشتن در اختیاری دیگران جدا من.
I was on the floor. He put his leg on my chest and he was choking me and with his knife on his hand.
He would always go back to his abusive behavior. So finally I planned our escape.
I've been doing this work for around 20 years now, both as a researcher and a practitioner working with migrant and refugee communities. Early on, there wasn't much help available. Family violence was not something that was discussed. However, since the Royal Commission into Family Violence, there's a greater awareness of family violence amongst diverse communities. For especially culturally diverse communities living in rural and remote areas, we don't actually have very much of the figures in terms of the prevalence of family violence amongst these communities. When it comes to help-seeking behavior, we know that they might experience more barriers compared to those living in urban and metropolitan areas. Women in remote areas, rural areas, might not have access to support that is readily available within their location.
Family violence affects everyone. Doesn't select between demographics, age, race, gender, sexuality, color, language spoken. So it impacts everyone, but the impact on several cohorts or groups of people may be disproportionate. So another factor to consider when supporting someone of migrant or refugee backgrounds living in remote or regional areas is the geographic isolation and disconnection from the community.
My family was from Burma. I was born in Bangladesh. I came to Australia with my mom with humanitarian visa because we were living in a refugee camp. After I came to Australia, I was 16 years old. I got married.
I was born in the Philippines. When I came to marry him in 2011, I came here on a visitor visa. I went back to the Philippines and then rejoined him when he became a permanent resident.
I came here in 2013 when we get married somewhere in a different country, but he sponsored me here, so that's why I came here.
توی یکی از شهرهای ایران به نام تبریز در اینا اومدم. اولین سالی که اومدیم استرالیا با ویزای دانشجویی با خاطر که شاعرم خیلی چه بود گیره هوشش آره کارش خوب بود هوشش بالا بود در عرض فکر کنم 6 ماه یا 8 ماه تونست از دست استودنت ویزا در بیام جاب سیچر بشم بعد من دیگه شوگ اون موقع شده بود من 6 بودم 4 سال از رسیده ما شوگ استودیان اینجا شده.
I'm born in India. I wasn't even 21 when I came to Australia, and it was a marriage that I came to that was arranged. The Australian government issued 3-month visas where people could come out, but within the 3 months, if you're not married, you have to go back. So really, I was quite dependent once I got here. I was quite dependent on him.
In family violence, you have to listen to people and you have to understand the context. You know, they're explaining to you about their choices and they might not be your choices, but you have to accept that is to do with their culture, that is to do with their faith-based beliefs and their family.
So you'd be asking about their visa status, whether or not they're sponsored or they're on a spousal visa, a working visa, a visitor's visa, a temporary visa, because that can make all the difference on what support monetary-wise they can receive. That in the background with a person from a different country may impact on them actually seeking support because there is that fear of, I will be returned home if I leave this relationship.
Victoria Police have a model to deal with cases, and we deal with high risk right down to low level family violence, but it's taken very seriously within the organisation. Depending on what's reported to us will depend on how we respond and who will take care of the family violence that's been reported to police. If people are calling up to report family violence, we strongly encourage them to attend the police station and report it to police so they can put processes and risk management in place to protect them.
What we also know about women who come here on a spousal visa, wherein they are sponsored by an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, it actually places them at greater risk of either experiencing family violence or not being able to get the support that they do need.
Other cultures will have a different view of family dynamics, distinct from the Western views, which is more nuclear and centered on the parents and children. And this has impact on the way a person may tolerate and view family violence and also their help-seeking behavior.
I grew up in a culture that family violence is okay. I see it in my parents' life. That's how the culture, how we brought up.
In my culture, unless you hit someone, unless you're physical with someone, that's not family violence. If he got mad, if he is verbally abusive, he would turn around and say sorry, and I would accept the apologies.
و چندین سنم به خاطر همین موضوع طاقت آوردم شاید رو بود تعجب میکنین که چجوری این فنستر وستلش چون بوشی من کوریون هفنهنگ تمام شماره منو چون حک کرده بوده داشته من هیچ همه دسترسی داشته به شماره ها به پیام ها بود بسته که اوشون دوست سننگ بوده همهش دسترسی داشته بیش از حد اطاقت انتهام شده بود
Yeah, raising voices, threatening, and slapping, dragging, controlling, what he do, avoiding not to say any word, otherwise there would be a consequence for that.
I didn't see the red flags, although they showed up. In the beginning it was just me. It's all verbal abuse, financial abuse, psychological, but when the kids came, he started abusing his own son.
I had my first child when I was 17 years old. Too much physical violence happening throughout all the pregnancy. I had a second child 2 years later. Then keep continuing all the violence again. I'm not allowed to see my family. I'm not allowed to see my mother. This story is just, I suffered how many years?
حسن مردم چون آبروم رو نیافتم تو دهنم و چطور میشه روی مردم چه فکری میکنن؟
It was the financial control, the emotional abuse that I didn't even know. I just thought it was just him putting me down, and that coercive control that I just thought that was all part of a relationship. And it was in the 70s, so it was a time where there was no services. There wasn't as much help as you had now.
When a person presents, they would most likely present at the Orange Door. They're actually funded by Family Safety Victoria, and you would meet with an intake and assessment practitioner. There's multiple questions around the person's experience of family violence. With that information that you have, you can try and dissect a little bit more with the person and start building a rapport, allow them the time to talk through what's occurred for them, because this can be bigger than what they would have ever experienced back home, because the support systems are quite different.
در سوی پویز برداشتم تو کنم بزرگترین اشتباه تو زندگیم هم که من با لباس پاره با صورت آشفته من تو به استیشن پلیس برگشتم. اگه الان بود با این طرز فکر با فکر 100% شک نمی‌کردم هستم.
In Australia, we know that women from culturally diverse communities, including migrant and refugee communities, are half as likely to seek help compared to people from the Anglo-Saxon communities. And that is what needs to be changed. We need to encourage women from culturally diverse communities to seek help if they experience family violence.
I was at one of the interpreting job as Women's Health Forum, and there were police and domestic violence services giving all the information how we can escape and what are the signs that you have to say enough. And that keep going in my mind. Oh, this is what he's been doing. That's not the right things. That's the things that I should not put up with.
The reason why I finally decided to leave was when he became really physical again with my stepson. I said to myself, this has got to stop.
When he hit me, it wasn't something I was expecting. It was hurtful, it was painful, and I kept thinking of my daughter sitting inside that house, thinking, well, I could have fallen down those stairs and died.
When children were crying, I got up and he was choking me. And I said, that's enough.
And it was a wake-up call for me. That's when I started making moves on how am I going to get out of this.
I get help from a counselor that she really support me like, can't stay in here, you just hurting yourself, you're hurting your kids. This is how I get the courage get again, stop it.
The next day, my boy and I went to the Orange Door to report. I accessed Quantum, I accessed all his services, I studied Victoria's family violence system, and then I also created an email address that he's not aware of. That's where I communicated with the service providers, especially with Quantum and with the Orange Door.
For myself, when I oversee a team with practitioners, and to them to enable support effectively, I would suggest that as the team leader, that you have the knowledge yourself and you consult. If you're unsure, consult with other services that is that special area.
And therefore, we really need to build the evidence as to what can work and close the barriers for women living in these areas to ensure that they are provided with the culturally relevant support wherever they require it.
وقتی وارد استرالیا شدم وقتی خونه رو خریدم رفتم Orange Door تو کمک ایجاد دوستان being that Oresto, Kodan Dramaticada, by the Yale's doodles, support them cap. As on frustrated as stank up and rapai and fall. So that very up.
I called police. Police attended the house and removed me and the children, taken to the police station. Then they called Safe Step.
It's normal for them to feel perhaps a bit nervous about coming in and speaking to the police, especially if they're from a culture where perhaps they can't trust the police in the places they've come from. I'd just like you to know that you can trust the Victoria Police. We're trained in this very complicated topic of family violence.
Alternatively, if they're not comfortable or ready to come to police, we'll provide them with support services, phone numbers and addresses so they can attend there. There is interpreter services available to get people the information. If they're reporting serious family violence where they're at risk straight away and they need to be removed from the situation, we have Safe Steps accommodation which we can put them in touch with and they can organise accommodation for them to stay. There's always after hours support services that can provide support there and then at the time.
I was trying to live in a quiet, peaceful way, but he found out that I'm leaving, so he didn't let me go. Then I had to call the police, and the police came, and I left them in presence of the police.
Once they do report family violence to us, we have an obligation to act on it. We can't ignore it. We don't just take notes and say, thanks for letting us know. That's not something we can do. We have to act on it, and we have to do something about it. Please make sure that the person who's reporting it, so the victim, is safe. We look after that person first. And then from there, we'll deal with the perpetrator.
I didn't go to the police because I didn't know that I could go to a police, that was part of the services. I didn't know that. And this is what I want women nowadays to know, that on that first thing, if someone had said to me, yeah, you've got these facilities available, I would have taken it.
According to Home Affairs website, there are over 120 visa subtypes that someone could take to come to Australia. For someone on temporary visa and also experiencing family violence, this is a whole level of complexity.
This is what the system needs to understand, that women who come here on these different kinds of visas might be in more of a vulnerable situation, and especially when they're living in rural and remote areas, they might not have access to information about their rights and the supports available.
So if you fall into a category of, I've come to Australia on a temporary visa, maybe a spousal visa, and you've encountered family violence, we would get in touch with InTouch. They are the family violence service that deals with people that are on visas from another country.
InTouch deals with culturally and linguistically diverse people. So they have the knowledge and the know-how to help you out.
On the day before we escaped, I went to Victoria Police to report. Quantum arranged that meeting with the police, and they made me feel comfortable. On the day that I escaped, once I've left, I let them know, and then they filed the intervention order, and the ex will be called to the nearest police station.
An intervention order is the court telling the perpetrator they can't do these certain things. If a person's being controlled by their partner, on a daily basis the partner might be ringing them and saying, where are you, what are you doing? Or there might be some financial control going on. Those things at the start in themselves aren't offences, but once there's an intervention order in place, it sort of draws a line in the sand and says, from now on you can't do these things anymore. If he does those things, that gives us a power of arrest and a power to remove that perpetrator from the situation.
I called police. Police attended the house and removed me and the children, taken to the police station. Then they called Safe Step. Safe Step provided with the taxi and accommodation and some food vouchers. Then Safe Step referred me to Orange Door again, paid for hotel stay and putting cameras, making the house safe so we can safely return home. Orange Door referred me to the Quantum for the case management for ongoing what I need.
I get help from Orange Doors and Quantum. They help us to find a motel at first and they support me. So a lot of the basic things that I need. Later I was assigned to different caseworker and she came from different country, but she understands how hard it is to live the culture community, to go against what you've been taught since childhood.
You're providing support to a person, so you gotta acknowledge their journeys in life, their strengths, their traumas, their experiences.
Keep that curiosity in the back of your mind where you're asking some questions, you're digging a little deeper, you're getting the big picture because you need to look at it holistically for what's happening in order to be able to inform an appropriate risk and safety assessment.
You might give them advice, resources, to skill them to understand what is available here in Australia, because in Australia our laws are different. We don't accept family violence in any way, shape or form.
We need to ensure that we provide a greater awareness of family violence related information and the support available to all communities, and especially in different languages as well.
I will feel more comfortable talking to someone who can speak my language, because even though I can speak fluently, English is my second language.
A way to improve services is reaching out to multicultural women because they won't open up in one setting, establishing that relationship with them.
People who come from different cultural background, they need extra encouragement, I could say, just to make them believe what they're doing is right.
Making information available in their own language so that they'll understand, and having women who have lived experience in family violence services.
ظلفينا فرانجانيات از آن کمک میخواد تجربهش داشتم حسش تهاج میکنم میفهمم طرف پول نداره اکسترا نداره چه موقعیتی بوده نمیتونه حرف بزنه خورد فده خیلی صرف منم این آرمینه چیز خیلی بهتره که از افرادی مثل ماها فرق میکنه استفاده کنه چون واقعا ما تجربهش داشتیم.
There weren't any services in the 70s when I needed it. There weren't, and you didn't even talk about it as you do now. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about it, because it's not only you with experience.
So now, maybe in the future, I want to support women that like me.
When a woman makes an attempt to say, look, I'm going to leave this relationship, that is the time she needs an advocate. If someone was hoping to be an advocate for family violence, you would need to have had a lived experience, and you need to be aware of all the services that are available to a survivor. And you need to be prepared to hold their hand through it all.
People may have the technical experience. People may have the head knowledge about family violence. But it's those women who have lived through family violence, the anxiety, no one knows that, but the women who have experienced these abuses.
The more you think you know, the less you actually know. So it is important for practitioners to take that lifelong approach to learning. Always be curious, always ask questions, and do not make assumptions.
The main thing that was scary for me before I sat live is like, okay, where I'm gonna go? From where I'm gonna get help? But there is help.
I would suggest that they contact the police if it's physical, but definitely talk to a close friend, someone you know will help you. Don't feel bad to talk about it with people.
So if the person is a witness to the victim suffering from family violence, they should try and get them out of that violent and unsafe environment and into a safe environment.
It's in the Human Rights Charter that every human should be able to live free from violence.
We know that this is difficult for you, but please know that there is help available should you choose to seek help.
برای کسی که خوشنات خانوادگی هستن یه روز از خواب که بلند شدن روبروی آینه واسم خودشونو قبول کنن، به خودشون اعتماد کنن. وقتی به خودت اعتماد کردی، وقتی خودتو قبول کردی، وقتی فهمیدی چی هستی، میتونی. تو که میتونی اون همه زجر و عذاب و خشونت و تجاوز و همه رو تحمل کنی، بس میتونی چیزای دیگر هم تحمل کنی. بس بهتره که خودتو بشناسی. اولین چیز. Know that your value as a woman does not lie on how people treat you. You are valuable and you have got what it takes to make things better for you and your children.
My children saw every bit of all the violence. As a parents, we don't realize how much is damaging to the children.
All those things are just are not good for children at all and their development. If your kids are being exposed to family violence, I'd encourage you to do something about it.
My children, he mentioned to the counselor that my dad used to do to my mom. Why can't I do it? They were repeating things that they saw. That's not their fault, but they finally understood now that's not okay what dad was doing.
As practitioners working in the field, we have to be cognizant of the complexity and working in this area. We should not allow abusers to weaponize the system to perpetuate abuse. We should be advocates for change and champion the rights of everyone regardless of their visa status.
My battle cry is early intervention, it's education, and it's educating people that you don't have to accept living like that. You don't have to be treated like that. There are places where you can get support. There are ways out of this.
I would encourage her to speak up and to seek help, and there is, and yeah, she can do it as well. Yeah, it might be hard, but it's worth fighting.
I know the conversations I've had with women. Firstly, I say to them, no, you're worth more. You don't deserve this, but you have a responsibility as well.
Therefore, you need to take care of yourself first, because you are the best person to look after yourself and stay free from violence.
Once you start to take that responsibility, then you will be wanting to help yourself. You make up your mind you want to leave, and then the resources are there to help you.
There is a lot of support here in Australia that can support you to get through this. You don't have to put up what you're getting through.
As a family violence detective, I actually want to help victims of family violence. That's the main reason why I do it. Not just me, but all the detectives in my office will believe you and will do the best we can to keep you safe.
نه الان که بودم این کار نمی‌کنم با شوهرم، الان هیچ حد و ناسی اجازه نمیدم ازم استفاده به هیچ طریق.
You are a survivor. If you're living, you're a survivor. So go from there.
There is a way out, there's support available, and you can do it. Do it before it's too late. Protect yourself.
Family violence in Australia is not acceptable. People have rights, and there are laws to protect anyone in the community who experiences family violence. There is help available because violence in any form is not acceptable. Living free from violence is a basic human right. And in Australia, there is support for everyone who wants to seek help and who does seek help.
Well, my daughter, I hope she's not going to go through these things. But if that happens, hopefully she'll say, no, I can do this. My mom done it.
If anything you have seen in this video has raised any issues for you or someone you know, please contact any of these services.